It is time to open up the pack because there was one show that was telling the world, Craig, about what was going on with Cody Rhodes as far as character wise. I didn't think either of us figured it would come to this in business terms because we figured nothing was going to happen. But it is time for the pack to go up because apparently Cody Rhodes has worked himself into a shoot. The fake stuff has turned real. There was no story. There was no genius behind this last 7 months or whatever it was back since Double or Nothing. Cody Rhodes is out of AEW. I remember back in September there was someone that said, "Man, this guy's broken. There's a problem." There's actually a YouTube clip, "The Problem with Cody Rhodes." You can look it up right now. In that, I was like, man, if it keeps going like this for him and it just stays so toxic, I'm really concerned that he could be out of AEW sooner than than we think. Little did I know, 4 or 5 months later, we'd be sitting here ready to put him in the pack of all packs. There's a lot to this story, man. Like, where do you want to begin with this?
I guess for me, it's where we. I think for me, it's there's two parts. There's multiple parts, but I think where you start is how in the world did we go from where Cody, his stature in the company, his stature in Turner network properties, to he's now he's presumably heading back to WWE. It's going to be a slow churn of information coming out when we've already, between Wade Keller and Dave Meltzer and Just Barrasso, there's already stuff in Sean Ross Sapp, of course, there's already stuff about slow leaks of what possibly could be the reason, or maybe there's like so many reasons that like this week is this time to mention this factor of it, but like it just seemed like in a way that matched what was happening on screen behind the scenes. There was less of a place for Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes seemed more like a luxury act than he was an essential act, which you can absolutely not have said about Cody 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
While he was still a top star in the company, it just felt like the game was moving further and further away from him. And whether that was him losing creative or EVP booking privileges, much like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega did, which pretty much it happened like right after that terrible end of 2019 episode of Dynamite. But it just seemed like for every awesome thing he'd do, it seemed like there were just these odd things that were happening. And as the show seemingly for me became more like an autopilot of competence, it seemed like you see some of the more meandering or head scratching things involving Cody and Brandy. And I don't know necessarily what's going on. It in the part where he would take these breaks to go and leave and do whatever, fill whatever responsibility he had for whatever TV shows he was doing, it just felt like he's coming, he's going, he's coming, he's going, and like he did so much stuff earlier in his run. It was like, what's left now?
Like,
Unless you're going to
remember the lightning speed that he blew through all these like angles with at the beginning.
Yeah. And there's so much talent in it, or has entered AEW that like it could have been replenished. Like for say what you want, but like there was with Adam Cole there, with him not doing a Moxley thing yet, with Keith Lee coming in, there was plenty of stuff for him to do. There's always they got so many wrestlers. There's years worth of stuff for everybody to do. But the clear, I think for AEW, like everybody has their ideas of like when is a line and saying that like this is a new era, but like somewhere around the time CM Punk and All Out or CM Punk shows up in United Center and Daniel Bryan shows up at All Out and along with Adam Cole, like this is completely different from the AEW that Cody was at his best at. And then you get to the behind the scenes stuff where his contract's up. He had 1 year left. He had a 1 year option left. They reached the renegotiating table, and there was this, and people have speculated and reported different things, but like, so I don't know what's real. I don't know what is to be believed at this point, but clearly there are part on numbers. So from there, you fast forward to he's gone now.
Then you think it's like, why were they apart on numbers? And one would presume that it would be like, well, let's look at your recent performance. Like, so if you are a big time Cody Rhodes fan, and this may be difficult for you to like hear the rest of this segment, right? Because when I look at Cody past Full Gear 2020, he was a complete lost entity.
That's when he dropped the belt to Darby, right?
Yes. He was a complete lost entity. He couldn't be TNT champion forever. The whole deal with him not challenging for the title, I'm going to reveal to you guys what it was. And I've talked about it for months, but now that we have his career completely wrapped up like a mummy in AEW,
for this run anyway, yeah.
Him not being the champion was his gimmick for AEW. This wasn't something where it was like, oh, the belt was on the table and he decided to be so unselfish, that he would, work with everyone else. No, the title wasn't meant for him. We've heard TK talk about his first 4 champions. He knew those were in the book. So Cody needed something. His whole thing was, okay, I'll just never challenge for the title then. But in doing that, we couldn't put him near anywhere near the top 6 because, as James would bring up, over the years, he would have to lose to everyone that's there, right? So that kind of forced him into a lower role. So now he's working with, people that are on the rise and all that, right? And I think he had mixed results with that, to be generous. You can point at Darby Allin as a guy for him. You can point at Sammy, even though, Sammy unhooked a belt to beat him. He didn't pin his shoulders or anything. But you start looking at Cody Rhodes' match log, and I just have questions like, why didn't he ever want to work with Moxley, with Hangman at some point? I can't, I was telling James in the chat the other day, I was like, we got the plan that he was never a part of. I can't just dismiss it as stupidity on Cody's part because he wasn't going to win it anyway. Like, it wasn't like it was the 1970s and people were in the NBA and they were just not shooting threes. There was no 3-point line in effect for them to shoot from. And I think it's like really one of the biggest miscalculations ever if it was a case of him just wanting to do something to juice that one title shot that he had. Like, it's like, why would you like completely handicap yourself like this? And the reason why is because he was never going to get a shot. So he might as well handicap the public marketing of this whole thing was, I will never challenge for the title, to gain whatever he could out of that, to gain that, hey, I'm unselfish and all this other stuff. Like, if I was another top guy in AEW, I would be fucking furious. Like, if I was Mox, I would have walked up to him and be like, so you don't want to put me over? That's what it sounds like. And this whole thing where he sequestered himself in the Codyverse, month after angle would die, and building after building would just die and boo him out of the arena, from New York to Chicago to Atlanta to anywhere they showed up, Atlanta being his hometown. It would just be a disaster. And that goes from like him to Brandy too. It would just like feel like this part of the show that it was just like, well, what is this? Why is Arn Anderson in the ring? It would be really difficult. Like, if I was a Cody Rhodes fan, I would find like great trouble explaining this. There was no Homelander gimmick. Everybody that told me, oh, this is Homelander and all this stuff. No, he came out there dressed like a slave master for months. Like, and it just like, he did himself in with that one promo, and it only got worse. And then he's wrestling all these people, and it's just not hitting the same. He becomes stale overnight. And when he goes back to the bargaining table with TK, and he's asking him, hey, since you done took this booking power from me, I mean, can I be paid like, one of these top people? And TK probably looked at him and was like, no, why would I do that? Why would I pay you like CM Punk? At this rate, I can't use you on top. You've bombed the last 7 months, like, creatively. I think his numbers and all that were fine. Like, I didn't think he was, like, he didn't hurt anything.
He was, regardless of how bad it ever got, he was always, people still treated him like a top star in the company. And, like, I still view him as a top star in the company, too. Well, not now anymore because he's not with the company anymore, but I always the whole time I was like, why is he? That's why I kept harping on it over and over and over. Why is he not mixing up with actual top guys when he really is a top guy? It made no sense to me. It was like, how are you going to fit him onto the card when, like, how stacked these cards are now for pay-per-views? Like, where are we going to put him now? If he's not going to be out, like, no, we don't have time for you versus, I don't know, Max Caster. Would be somebody bigger than Max Caster. Be my point. Like, we have no time for these. We don't have any time for these vanity things for you to do now, just because you're a top star. Like, either face somebody that people will actually care to see to be like the headline, be like the third or fourth biggest match on the card, or what are we even doing here?
And it's like he had no interest in facing those people, and that just leads me to question why. Like, it feels like you didn't want to like do business with them, or they didn't want to wrestle you. There was never a match with the Elite with Kenny versus Cody. Mind you, I didn't want to see that match or anything, but you have to ask why it didn't happen.
Right, especially when like they're 1-1 against each other, career-wise.
Right, and they've drew against each other.
Yeah.
So how do you
like how people talk about like if not for the Tokyo Dome Jericho Kenny Omega match, there is no AEW.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great argument like that. Along with that, like some of the other matches that are like crucial for AEW to exist is that series between Kenny Omega and Cody. Mm-hmm. So it's like it made no sense not to do a third one.
Yeah, and I think it was like I said, this whole thing, like as far as him being the star raider, I think or the star creator, I think it's a bit overblown. I think the suits fooled a lot of people when it came to people's perception of who was really in charge of what, who was responsible for what, who was the face of what, and I think maybe the political masterminds in this thing were the guys in the shorts and the tank tops rather than the dude in the suit. So, well,
maybe Cody was just so made such a poor mistake and such a poor miscalculation. Like, I look at this stuff and I see what's happening with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Jericho and Cody. I'm like, I don't think Jericho's been cycled down clearly the last year. Right, or since the summer, but you don't see him. You don't see he's about to go to WWE again. And I'm not saying that's some big slight that, oh my god, you finna go and make millions of dollars per year. What a loser! No, like Cody, like there is no loser in this particularly. But it is weird that this was the dude that was at the forefront of all of this rah-rah. From the AEW side of it, sticking up for the side of the war that was coming on from WWE putting NXT on USA Network on Entertain's time slot, and to go from that where Cody's breaking thrones and he's pulling out golden shovels and and he's making all these jabs at Triple H and he's cutting promos about this is the land of opportunity, this is the Ellis Island of professional wrestling.
A lot of his stuff is going to look funny in the light when you review it,
and now it's like, oh, so you're going back, you're going back from the place you left. Okay, so much for Ellis Island. So for me, it's just really strange, and Rich, you've talked about this over the years that you can't wait for the 2000s, 2010s era of the diva / women's revolution shoot interviews.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for if and when there is a AEW EVP edition of shoot interviews, because like we all are hearing this stuff about like, well, maybe he wanted more money, or he wanted as much money, more money than Danielson and Punk, and like that's preposterous. Like no disrespect to Cody, but it's like that price is like not where you're at. Like that affects his whole entire like pay scale, right? Like nah, go to WWE and get that. I'm sure they'll give you it, but or to talk about like the Brandy stuff and how there are people that don't like Brandy, or there are enough people that don't like Brandy, or it ends up making people's reporting about it, and it's like, okay, sure, like, but I mean, it's pro wrestling. Like, you don't get along with everybody.
Everybody ain't gonna like everybody.
Yeah, it is what it is.
And the Kenny Omega Cody relationship is always, something I think that comes into focus with them not working to each other. We heard the Observer this week. Meltzer had a pretty good column looking into all this, and he mentioned that Kenny Omega and Cody didn't really speak to each other, and this is something that Kenny verified in his interview, aside from when they did business. And then that's Dave speak, and then when you think about it, hold on, they've never done business together like in AEW. And as far as working a program, doing a match, doing an angle, they were far apart from each other the whole time. So that leads me to think there is no relationship. And that Kenny Omega interview, I think it was quite telling. The way he described Cody, and it felt when we had a conversation with Floyd, and he said it was a skillful political burial of Cody, and I 100% agree.
I mean, I guess sure.
Just like I feel like Cody was taking a shot at Kenny when in his goodbye letter he was writing Kenneth Omega. But right. Kenny's not.
That's not his real name.
It's not his real name. Exactly.
His name is Tyson
Tyson Smith.
Smith. That's right. That's not his real name. I mean, that's it's almost like calling. It's almost like when Walter was calling Pete Dunne Peter.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
They ain't gotta like each other. Like this isn't like the 2008 Celtics where we're wondering how come we're me and Rich today, he sent me their last night at the All-Star game for the 75th anniversary of the All-Star of all the All-Stars coming in, or 75 greatest NBA players all coming together, and they got their Navy Blazers on, and he showed me that as Ray Allen gets his name called, he walks up the stage, he daps up LeBron, who he won the 2013 title with, but KG completely ignores him,
right.
And then people were like, damn man, you ain't gonna let this go, y'all are teammates for 5 years, you're one of the you're one of the in our lifetimes one of the teams that are most known for how close they were at the time. We get it, but y'all were together for 5 years. Let bygones be bygones. And then Rich sent me a picture of him, Ray, and of KG Ray and Paul Pierce together backstage. So it's maybe KG is warmed up to him, and I get that people wanted to know about the familiar bond or the close bonds of people that seem like they're tight knit or whatever else. That's the reason why people went off on Seth in 2019 when he said that stupid stuff about Moxley. Right. So
in the Elite, in itself, this is a sad day in the history in that sense, because the Elite, I feel like it's the greatest wrestling faction ever, right? When you look at the combination of Kenny, the Bucks, Cody, Hangman, they changed the business. They changed how wrestling works. And then you remove Cody out of that, you remove him in their story, the EVP, they can't ever tell any stories surrounding that, until they're either back together or whatever, I think that's a big loss for that's an era that ended kind of without really them maximizing what it could have been in a way.
Well, I don't think anybody was given what we've seen on the TV and seeing they had this and I said this to you jokingly, they had this ice ribbon freeze out between Sakasha Fujimoto, their ace, and and Risa Sera, where Risa Sera's how come Risa Sera's one of the top 5? How come she's never in any matches with Tsukasa? It's oh, they had beef. And Sakasa's like, nah, I'm never wrestling her again. I don't give a fuck if we out here like we don't draw on a Cork and Hall. We don't care. Like Kenny Omega and Cody and the Young Bucks, like basically like after once the pandemic started,
it was
they did that one promo, and they did that promo where another part where like Cody is, needling Omega.
Yep.
Talking about like, this
1A and all this 1B star shit, and it's like this is a classic story.
While Omega's just sitting there like not saying shit at all, he's just like, he's trying to play cool, but like you're bringing up backstage shit to see, like, so yeah, I can see why, from the Omega perspective, now that like he's gone and he left us,
might as well give him a little kick on the way out,
Yeah, like you've been needling me you've been needling me at different times, like, I don't think Kenny was a champion at that point in time, but he's about to be champion, and he's like
calling him the ace belt. This is the only belt that matters.
Darby, I'm the ace and stuff. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, like, that's a thing. That's a real thing.
That's a story as old as time.
That seems to be. That's the thing that's really going to be the sticking point of like people will really want to know over the years, like why did they not like each other? What was the falling out? They there are different ideas of what pro wrestling is and what they want to portray in AEW and like how it turned out. And like ultimately you look at it and it's like politically it looks like Cody lost favor.
Yeah.
And he's leaving to try to, because this isn't what he wants to do anymore. And like, look, this is the beauty of AEW existing.
Right. This is what we asked for. If you don't like
your reality, you can go change it over in the other place.
Yeah, this is what we asked for, like as fans, like for the alternative, like, and this day was always gonna come. I never knew it would be Cody that would leave, but back to what I was saying, like with Cody and Kenny, like this is a story as old.
Breaker.
This is a story as old as time. There's one guy that thinks he's better than the other one. The other one, like, huh? Like it's the same, like imagine you're Kenny Omega, right?
Randy Moss.
Right. Imagine
Randy Moss.
Stupid. But I would say. No, I'm not going to bury Cody that much more, but
no. Look, that's a lot of respect to say that Cody is Terrell.
That's what I was saying. I was like, I don't think he quite T.O.
But like I remember, like
imagine you're Kenny Omega and you're winning Match of the Year, Wrestler of the Year, Flair Thez, all this shit, and then you hear people are like, we're comparing this guy to you. What? Like.
That's what I'm getting at with the T.O. Randy Moss thing. Randy Moss comes in the league 2 years after T.O. Came in. And T.O.'s like, he's behind Jerry Rice. He's the second or third guy behind J.J. Stokes and Jerry Rice. He drops that one ball in that playoff game, makes that catch against the Niners, and cries tears, becomes a star that night, right? But on the other side, like Randy Moss's rookie year is sensational. And we're like, yo, is this nigga Jordan playing wide receiver?
Mm-hmm.
And like people start making that speculation. And then T.O. slowly but surely climbs up and gets to a spot where like I can make a name for myself by comparing myself to Randy Moss the whole time. So the first time they ever have a game against each other when they're both actually like on some type of equal footing as seen as similar stars, Randy Moss goes out there and scores 3 touchdowns in a game, and then T.O.'s on the sideline blowing up on his offensive coordinator because he wasn't able to showcase what Randy Moss showcased. And
yeah.
It's like that's kind of what we're talking about here. Like they're both top stars. One is clearly better at this thing from the perspective of what the fans actually want, or what brought most people to the dance, and that's fine. Not everybody has the same set of skills. Like I wouldn't want Cody to try to come out here and try to match of the years, doing what Ospreay or Ibushi does, right? But it's different flavors, and like Cody was an essential part of the variety of AEW, but it seemed like over time that changed and.
It exhausted itself.
The billionaire who was out here watching ECW didn't want that shit no more.
Yeah, like we talked about him exhausting himself, exhausting the angles. You would think it would fix itself if he turns heel. He never wants to turn heel.
That's not a problem.
And I think what do heels do at the end of the day? They lose eventually. And I don't think Cody necessarily had a problem losing, but if it was a place where he would lose a match, he needed to have something to kind of lean on. What's in it for him to lose, right? So like it's not I don't think he would have seen anything out of losing to a John Moxley, for example. If he loses to a Darby Allin, he can say, "Oh, I made this person. Like, I did this thing. There's something in it for me." But him not working with those other top people is a flashing alarm for me that this entire stipulation shit wasn't actually a stipulation. It was a work. Like, and and then that work turned into a shoot when I would love to know. I would love to be a fly on the wall if Cody was like, do you think we were able to break the stipulation? Then TK looks at him like, no, we're not lying to our fans. Like, and then Cody's jaw dropping. Like, huh?
I sincerely think that Cody was trying to, and I talked to you about this the other day. I think that he was at the time, he saw that Jericho had the previous pay-per-view became the inaugural champion. And he was like, I'm the first challenger at the first pay-per-view. No one's going to buy for a second, and y'all are just going to take the belt right off of him. What am I going? And this is a hot feud. What am I going to do to give myself some juice to get people to believe? Right? And that's the magic. That's the part of the magic trick. Like a match stands to be more hyped and all that kind of stuff when it's a person's real threat. So I put out that stip that like if I lose, I can be champion again, and people will be like, damn, maybe Cody could win. And they went out there and they did that, and they probably sold like 12 more pay-per-views. probably maybe two dozen off of that, and it did so much damage to him. And like from that they took him straight to the MJF stuff, and the MJF stuff was great. But then like after the MJF stuff, now what? Oh, we'll make a secondary title that you can say
like it was all
title.
It was all part of the plan.
That the secondary belt is the ace belt.
Yeah, that used to drive me up the wall. Like especially like when Mox was going fucking nuts in 2020 with that belt. Then Kenny had it, and then he's talking this ace belt shit. I'm like, what is this? And a lot of people bought into this shit. That's what really pissed me off.
Anybody who?
Oh, I went into the Voices of Wrestling forum and just went in there after this news broke and just went in there like a bully, like just all the stuff the last couple months, all the he's a genius stuff and all this. There's a massive he turned heel already, like all that stuff. They had to feel it. They had to feel it because he never turned. There was never a flashpoint. There was never a genius. There was no story behind this. This was someone who was getting booed, didn't know what to do, didn't want to turn for reasons which one day will be explained, which I can look at a couple things.
Doing charity work, and I was like, dude, we know, like, come on, man. Like,
yeah,
it's fake,
right? Like no, like someone's gonna get the real story why he didn't want to turn, and I just look. It's like a goddamn algebra problem. Like, what is X? So when I solve for X, it's like, oh, you don't want to lose at the end of the day to these other top people. That's why you won't turn. Oh, okay. Because the second you turn, you obviously shoot up the card a little bit, and then you can work with all the other baby faces that are hot, like Mox, like Danielson at the time, like Punk, Page, yeah, like or all the new people that are coming in, like Adam Cole with his unit, stuff like that. You can
Keith Lee.
You can fuck with all those guys, but no. We can't do that. Like, and I think there's a lot behind this. I would thank Cody for what he did put into the promotion. Like he did, help certify Darby for sure. And he had a run outside of WWE from 2016 to 2022 that anyone leaving WWE would dream of. Like,
yeah.
So like, I don't want to make it like I don't want to go full gimmick on it and like make it like he's just the worst person that's entered the business. He annoyed me, frustrated me at times, and I always try to evaluate him fairly, like when I was speaking seriously about it. And I don't feel like I was wrong for a lot of the stuff I was saying with him. It was just like I thought his ability like was lacking compared to some of the best wrestlers in the world. Is that such a crime? Like I don't think so. But I feel like if the going to WWE part of it, he's like, all right, if I can't have this what was promised to me or whatever, I'll go there and turn my brain off for the X amount of dollars or whatever and have less pressure or whatever. But this isn't a move that he wanted to make. He wanted to be in AEW, and I don't know where it all went wrong, but
Well, I mean,
if he's gonna lose and be in the middle or have to do something, he's gonna do it in WWE because he always wanted to be a top star in WWE. He wrestled like he was from WWE the whole time. So
now that's part that's more interesting to me. Now it's like, all right, eventually that was the point of this. Like, people don't have to move back and forth, and like the whole part is like the cycling part where people going back and forth, and it's a lot of people. Like, it ain't just 50 people going from WWE to AEW, and the only one, and the Cody only be one person. Like,
hell of a trade. I'll make that trade any day.
Get rid of a max contract to get more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, hey, like, let's get a Westbrook and let's add a Alex Caruso.
Look. Nah, this is a classic NFL Herschel Walker style deal. We'll be like, we'll give you Cody. We'll go ahead and take back all these people. And we'll get niggas to come out of retirement too, like CM Punk.
So, yeah, Cody Rhodes is going back to WWF or WWE, and like, he's obviously getting paid top money. And the funny thing for me is, like, I hear Alvarez and Meltzer and Keller, and they're all like, "Oh, they're gonna push to the top because X, Y, and Z." Meaning, like, they finally got their own guy. They finally got one of AEW's guys. He knows all the he knows all the recipes, right? In theory, the strategic play of, if we bury that dude, then they'll make it less likely that they'll get anybody else that they may want, like a MJF or Wardlow, or I don't know, somebody they would actually want this as a right size, right? In the future, like, as a 3-year play, it's smart to actually treat him and keep him at a certain level, right? I hear all that,
but doesn't this company shoot themselves in the foot all the time?
And that's what I was getting at. Like, there's also a company that is paying Rey Mysterio top star money, and look what the fuck he's done ever since he came back. This also the company that is about to do title versus title with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns as a, 2012. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. As a 10-year, chain reaction of bad booking that dates back to when they brought Brock Lesnar back at Extreme Rules 2012, and he lost his first fucking match to John Cena.
It's a straight line you can draw.
So if you're telling me that they will treat Cody like he's AJ Styles in his first year, could be. But if you're acting like there's no way they would just
let's look
push
at
him
the
a little
history
bit and beat him, you're out of your fucking mind.
Like, if it was me, he would be
AJ Styles lost his first pay-per-view or his first singles to Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
Why? His first win to Jericho after he came to the company in 3 months or whatever. Why? He then became the man after that. Why?
It's gonna be interesting to see whatever happens.
This is a company who has a lot of their key fan base telling me that Seth Rollins is super underappreciated and is like a top star in all this, and then he just got fucking destroyed with like 4 other guys in Elimination Chamber just this weekend. I'm Brock Lesnar, like fucking geek, who looks ass out in the winter with no coat for WrestleMania, unless he is going to wrestle Cody.
That's my match for Seth Rollins, would be Cody, and he has to stand up for WWE, but then Cody needs to fucking blow through him. That's what I would do, but
they should just have a suit match.
Oh my god, good suits versus bad suits.
Yes, Cody would. It's crazy. Cody with his goofy wrestling but good suits versus Seth with his good wrestling but goofy suits. Go figure. It's like a duality.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. If you don't think they'll fuck up Cody Rhodes, I'm not saying they will, but if you think they won't, it's impossible. And they fuck up tons of people all the time.
Yeah. Look. They fucked up Roman Reigns for years and years and years and years and years.
bro.
And they wanted to push him. They wanted to make him the star.
They just beat Bobby Lashley's ass in a match so that the match he could win it by the help of Roman Reigns. And in that match, he separates his shoulder, or fucks up his shoulder, and then they fly him all months later, like a month later, they fly him all the way to the other continent so that he can have a fake concussion, so he can then leave instead of just saying, "Hey, bruh, shoulder's fucked up." You saw him get dumped on the shoulder like half a dozen times.
Right.
His shoulder's fucked up.
Incredible.
Okay, Cody, good luck, man. Wish you the best.
Yeah.
And look, at the end of this, he can always come back. He can always come back.
Yeah.
I expect him to come back.
Maybe. I'm interested to see, like, they handled it in a very professional, front-facing manner. But like James said, the stories will continue to come out. There's a story that will continue to follow. If you guys didn't hear Kenny's like Observer Radio interview, he had dropped some very, like put your conspiracy, your One Nation Radio brain on, and then like listen to that and tell me how that shit sounds. Like, yeah, it's quite amazing.
He also, like, remember when we heard that deadline, or he said like he's trying to come back in February, and I remember saying to you like he ain't come back in no damn February, and sure enough, like. We're now in February, and he's still at most like at the earliest 8 weeks away. So there's that too. So he had like probably double or nothing, if that.
One would hope. He's he's in the situation next. So like his deal's up for a year from now. So hopefully, we'll see how TK operates then when it's time. Because like you start thinking about these deals and all that and how they were all set up. And you figure the timing of the next, TV contract, their TV contracts at the end of 2023. Kenny's deal comes up in February 2024. Feels like there'll be a lot of fresh money available. So maybe on that end, he won again. So who knows?
Yeah, but he wrestles blow up dolls, so he has no idea what he's doing.
Correct.
All right, so what's next?
Excuse me. Like there'll probably be a negotiation season as they are, as his contract's expiring. So yeah. So, man, who knew? Political mastermind.